There is a number that most riders get wrong every single time they check their tires. That number is in your owner's manual. It is on the placard on your frame. You have been following it for years, and depending on how you ride, when you ride, and what you weigh, that number may be destroying your rear tire several thousand miles early and costing you $400 per replacement cycle. Here is the full picture. Every piece of it is documented. None of it is from a manufacturer who has an interest in how quickly you replace your tires. The thing your manual does not explain. Open your owner's manual to the tire pressure section. For a Harley-Davidson Road King, it lists 36 pounds per square inch front and 40 pounds per square inch rear when riding solo. Add a passenger and full saddlebags, and it lists 38 pounds per square inch front and 42 pounds per square inch rear. For a Yamaha FJR, the manual gives 36 pounds per square inch front and rear unloaded, then bumps the rear to 42 pounds per square inch when two up or with luggage. Most riders read the first number and stop reading. They inflate to the solo specification and ride. And that is the correct thing to do for that specific load condition. The problem is what most riders actually do with that information. They inflate to the solo specification on a Sunday morning before a day ride. Then, on Saturday, they load the saddlebags with camping gear, put the passenger on the back, and ride 400 miles to a rally. The rear tire is now carrying approximately 250 to 300 pounds more than it was when the pressure was set. The pressure is not changed. The load is doubled. That is not a recommendation error. That is a rider error that the manual specifically warns against, and almost nobody reads the warning. Harley-Davidson's own guidance uses the term riding order weight, meaning the total weight of the bike, the rider, the passenger, and the gear, and specifies that the correct pressure depends on that total number, not on a single fixed figure. The manual has a table. Most riders have never opened to that page. I personally think the most expensive tire pressure mistake in motorcycling is not running the wrong number. It is running the right number for the wrong load condition. The tire on your bike does not know what the manual says. It knows what it is carrying and whether the pressure is sufficient to carry it without generating destructive heat. What wrong pressure actually does to your rear tire? Here is the specific physics. Your motorcycle tire is not carrying your weight. The air inside the tire is carrying your weight. The rubber is the container. The AIR is the load-bearing structure. When the air pressure is correct for the load, the tire maintains its designed contact patch, the specific area of rubber in contact with the road that the engineers who built the tire calculated for its compound, construction, and intended use. That contact patch produces even heat distribution across the tread surface. Even heat means even wear. Even wear means the tire reaches its end of service life with consistent tread depth across its full width. When the air pressure is too low for the load, when you have added a passenger and luggage without adjusting the rear pressure, two things happen simultaneously. First, the sidewalls flex beyond their designed range. That excess flex generates heat in the sidewall itself. Sustained sidewall heat is how motorcycle tires fail catastrophically, not slowly, catastrophically. The internal structure of the tire degrades at elevated temperature, and the failure, when it comes, is sudden. Second, the contact patch expands beyond its designed shape. The shoulders of the tire, the outer edges, begin carrying load they were not engineered to carry. The tread shoulders wear faster than the center. The tire develops a wear pattern that shows the shoulder tread gone while the center still has depth remaining. You cannot use the center depth to estimate how much tire life remains because the shoulders have already failed the safety threshold. The documented result of consistently running a rear tire underinflated for load is shoulder wear that reduces real-world service life by 3,000 to 5,000 miles. On a rear tire that costs $200 mounted and balanced, that is a $400 cost over 2 replacement cycles, not because of the tire, because of the pressure. The other direction is equally destructive. Overinflate your tires beyond what the load requires. If you run the 2-up specification when you are riding solo with no luggage, the contact patch shrinks to the center of the tread. The center wears while the shoulders maintain full depth. The tire becomes progressively rounder in profile, which makes the bike feel twitchy and reluctant to lean. The tread depth gauge will show what appears to be serviceable depth on the shoulders, while the center is at the wear bar. Both conditions produce premature tire replacement. Both conditions are preventable with the pressure gauge and 2 minutes before every ride when the load condition is changed since the last time you checked. The specific numbers by bike type. I want to give you the actual numbers because the manual gives you a range, and most riders need a clear starting point. For Harley-Davidson touring models, Road King, Street Glide. Ultra Classic. The documented recommendation is 36 pounds per square inch front and 40 pounds per square inch rear for solo riding. For 2-up with luggage, use 38 pounds per square inch front and 42 pounds per square inch rear. The 2024 Road King Special confirmed those exact figures. If you ride solo 90% of the time and only add a passenger occasionally, run 36 front and 40 rear. When the passenger and gear go on, add 2 pounds per square inch to the front and 2 pounds per square inch to the rear. Before you leave the driveway, not after you arrive. For sport touring machines such as the Honda VFR, Kawasaki Versys, and Yamaha FJR, the typical setup is 36 pounds per square inch front and 42 pounds per square inch rear for standard solo touring. Add 2 to 4 pounds per square inch to the rear when loaded. The Yamaha FJR manual specifically calls out 42 pounds per square inch rear 2-up, which confirms the load sensitivity of the rear tire on a fully fared touring bike carrying significant luggage capacity. For naked and standard bikes like the CB500, the Suzuki SV650, and the Kawasaki Z-Series, the typical pressure range is lower. Front pressure is 32 to 36 pounds per square inch. Rear pressure is 36 to 42 pounds per square inch. These bikes are lighter. The load variation between solo and 2-up is a higher percentage of total riding weight, which means the pressure adjustment matters proportionally more. For sport bikes like the CBR series, the ZX series, and the R series Yamahas, front pressure is typically 32 to 36 pounds per square inch, and rear pressure is typically 34 to 42 pounds per square inch. Sport tire compounds are more temperature sensitive than touring compounds. Running the wrong pressure on a sport tire at the speeds sport bikes operate at is a more immediate safety issue than on a touring compound. The consistent principle across all of them is simple. Rear tire pressure is higher than the front because the rear carries more of the load. Load changes require pressure adjustment. The manual's table gives you the specific numbers, but most riders read only the first line and never look at the rest of the table. The 2026 Motorcycle Buyer's Bible has the complete tire maintenance protocol, pressure by load, temperature adjustment tables, tread wear interpretation, and the specific wear patterns that tell you what your current pressure has been doing to your tires. It was built on independent data, not on manufacturer relationships. It launched at $97. Right now it is $9. Link in the description. The temperature variable nobody accounts for. Every tire pressure specification in your manual is a cold tire pressure. That means the bike has been sitting for at least 3 hours without being ridden, or has been ridden less than 1 mile at low speed. That is the baseline condition. Temperature changes that baseline in a way that most riders never account for. For every 10 degrees Fahrenheit drop, a motorcycle tire loses approximately 1 psi. This is not a theory. It is basic gas physics. The pressure of a contained gas varies directly with its temperature. A tire inflated to 40 psi on a September afternoon at 80 degrees Fahrenheit will read approximately 35 psi on a November morning at 30 degrees Fahrenheit. That is a 5 psi reduction with no slow leak and no damage, simply from ambient temperature change. The practical consequence is this. A rider who checks tire pressure in September and does not check again until spring is riding on tires that are 5 to 7 psi below their correct cold specification for the entire riding season. Every cool morning ride, every early spring run. The tires are underinflated for the conditions and are producing the shoulder wear pattern we already described. The opposite is true in summer. A rider who inflates on a cool spring morning and then rides into July and August heat may have tires that read 3 to 4 psi above specification at room temperature on a hot day. Not dangerously overinflated, but higher than optimal for the contact patch and for the handling the manufacturer designed. The correct practice is simple, and it costs nothing. check cold tire pressure before every ride when the temperature has changed by more than 15 degrees since the last time you checked. A quality digital gauge costs $12 to $15. It takes 90 seconds to check both tires. Those 90 seconds are the difference between tires that reach their rated service life and tires that wear out 2,000 to 3,000 miles early. The TPMS problem. Many current motorcycles, the Honda Goldwing Tour, higher trim Harley-Davidson models, and various BMW and KTM touring bikes come equipped with tire pressure monitoring systems, commonly called TPMS. The light on the dash will tell you when something is wrong, so you do not need to manually check. That is what most riders believe. Here is what TPMS actually does. The system triggers a warning when tire pressure drops to approximately 25% below the manufacturer's recommended inflation pressure. If your rear tire should be at 40 pounds per square inch, the TPMS warning activates at approximately 30 pounds per square inch. 30 pounds per square inch on a rear tire that should be at 40 pounds per square inch is not a maintenance reminder. It is a safety emergency. At 30 pounds per square inch on a tire designed for 40, the sidewall is flexing at levels that generate dangerous heat. Your contact patch has expanded and deformed. Your handling has changed in ways that will surprise you in emergency avoidance situations. Your stopping distance has increased. By the time the TPMS light appears on your dash, you have been riding on a dangerously underinflated tire for potentially weeks. The light is not the system working correctly. The light is the system's last line of defense before catastrophic failure. I personally think TPMS on a motorcycle is one of the most dangerously misunderstood pieces of equipment on the modern machine. Riders treat it as a maintenance tool. It is an emergency warning system. The difference between those two functions is measured in thousands of miles of tire wear and, in a worst case, in whether you make it home. A manual check with a digital gauge is the only tool that tells you where your pressure actually is, not whether it has crossed into emergency territory. It shows where the pressure stands relative to the correct number for your load and for the temperature conditions. The specific way to read your tire's wear pattern to determine whether your historical pressure has been correct is in the 2026 Motorcycle Buyer's Bible. It covers shoulder wear versus center wear, what the wear gradient tells you about your past inflation practice, and the adjustment protocol to restore even wear on a tire that has been running wrong. It was $97, now $9, link in the description. The nitrogen fill scam at the dealer. While you have your bike in for service, the service advisor will offer to fill your tires with pure nitrogen rather than compressed air. The charge is typically $5 to $10 per tire, or $20 to $40 for both wheels. They claim nitrogen maintains pressure better because nitrogen molecules are larger and permeate the rubber more slowly, less pressure loss over time, better temperature stability, more consistent performance. Here is the documented reality. Regular compressed air is already 78% nitrogen. You are paying for an additional 20% purity. Independent testing has found that the pressure retention benefit of pure nitrogen over compressed air amounts to approximately 1 psi over an entire year. 1 psi over 12 months. That is the difference between a Tuesday morning check and a Tuesday afternoon check after the tire has warmed slightly from sunlight. It is not a meaningful difference for any rider who checks their pressure on any regular schedule. For a rider who checks monthly, nitrogen and air are functionally identical. For a rider who never checks, who relies on the TPMS to tell them when something is wrong, the nitrogen will not save them from the consequences of not checking. The service department at your dealer generates $30 to $40 per bike from nitrogen fills. You generate zero benefit that you cannot generate yourself by checking your pressure monthly with a $12 digital gauge. Do not buy the nitrogen fill. Buy the gouge. Use it. The specific action protocol. What to do right now. Step 1. Find your owner's manual. Turn to the tire pressure section. Locate the table that shows pressure by load condition, solo, 2 up, loaded. Write those numbers down and keep them with your gauge. Step 2. Get a digital tire pressure gauge that reads to the nearest half psi. A dial gauge is acceptable. A stick gauge is not accurate enough. $12 to $15 at any auto parts store. This is the single most cost-effective maintenance purchase you will make this year. Step 3. Check your tires. cold before every ride or after 3 hours of sitting, not after you have been riding. A warm tire reads 2 to 4 pounds per square inch above its cold specification. Checking a warm tire and adjusting it to the cold specification will leave you underinflated when the tire cools overnight. Step 4. Every time the load condition changes, adding a passenger, adding luggage, or removing both, adjust the rear pressure by 2 pounds per square inch in the appropriate direction. Increase the rear by 2 pounds per square inch when load increases. Reduce the rear by 2 pounds per square inch when the load is removed. This takes 30 seconds with a quality digital gauge and either a small compressor or a Schrader valve tool to release air. Step 5. At each season change, spring to summer, summer to fall, or fall to whatever riding you do in winter, check and adjust for the ambient temperature shift. Add 1 pound per square inch for every 10 degrees Fahrenheit of average temperature drop from your last setting. Remove 1 pound per square inch for every 10 degrees Fahrenheit of average temperature increase. That is the entire protocol. It takes less than 2 minutes per ride for the check and less than 5 minutes for a full adjustment. The riders who follow it consistently report rear tire service life of 12 to 15,000 miles on sport touring compounds. The riders who inflate once and forget it report 8 to 10,000 miles. The difference is 3 to 5,000 miles of tire life and $400 per replacement cycle. I drive a 2000 Ford Ranger with 340,000 miles on it. Every maintenance decision I make on that truck I make based on what the machine actually needs, not what I did last time and assumed was still correct. The truck has lasted because I pay attention to what it tells me rather than assuming I already know. Your motorcycle is doing the same thing. Every time you ride, it is telling you whether the pressure is correct through its handling, its steering weight, and the wear pattern it is developing on the tire you will eventually replace. Most riders are not listening to that information because they inflated once, assumed the number was still right, and moved on. The number you need is in your manual. The variable your manual does not calculate for you is your specific load, your specific ambient temperature, and your specific riding frequency. Those 3 variables are yours to manage. A $12 gauge and 2 minutes is the cost of managing them correctly. The 2026 Motorcycle Buyer's Bible covers the complete tire selection and maintenance guide, pressure by machine type, load adjustment tables, temperature correction, wear pattern interpretation, and the 5 tires the independent data actually recommends for your riding conditions. It was $97, now $9, link in the description. Last mention, drop your bike model and the pressure you have been running in the comments. I want to see whether anyone has been running the loaded specification on a solo bike or the solo specification under full load. Both are more common than most riders realize. Stay safe. Ride smart. Check your pressure before you ride.